Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about the dangers of cooking with aluminum as well as having it in other products and how I transition out of that, what I use instead, why I use it, and how I use it. So we're going to talk about lots of different options, and I'm really excited to share this with you guys as one of my many adventures on our channel, Hunting for Healthy. So if you don't know who I am, I'm Brianne, and this is all about my journey and how I'm creating a healthy lifestyle for me and my family, and I just wanted to share it with you. So let's get started. So last week we talked about cast iron and why cooking with that is a benefit. So aluminum is kind of on the opposite spectrum of that, and it actually has negative health effects instead of positive health effects for your body and for your diet. And we're gonna switch from cast iron pans into like the baking dishware kind of category. And in an effort to explain why aluminum was bad, I found this information out 5 to 7 years ago, maybe even longer. And I've been slowly transitioning since then. And I tried to find the articles and the research that I had read before. And it is so terrifying, like absolutely terrifying, what happens to research over time. So back in the day, like all the research that was coming out was that aluminum was causing or a risk for Alzheimer's, which I'm sure many of you know is very devastating, as well as linked to cancer, which is a huge part of issues and health concerns in this country. Now, when you go and look, there's a ton of research that actually will contradict this and says that aluminum is safe and there's nothing linked to it. I've talked about this in the past and I will talk about this again. Research is fallible. So if you took any kind of statistics class or research studies or anything like this, you know about statistical significance. It was part of my undergrad studies as well. And so when you're looking into this, it depends on how many people you studied, who you studied, where they're from. There's so many factors that go into that, but the one that I always come back down to is who's paying for this research. So when the aluminum first came out that it was unhealthy and it was bad, it was paid for by who versus the aluminum research that says aluminum is safe. Who is that paid for? And I really do think that makes an impact. I'd like to say that the researchers and stuff, it's not like a conspiracy. I just think that there is some trust issues there that I have with that. And so I always tend to go with stuff that we have used traditionally as human beings that have been used at least for a decade, so we can see the long-term effects of those on our health and on our diet. So that's why I use cast irons in my last video. And so today we're gonna talk about the many different types of pans. I have them all right here. And we're gonna talk about why I switched from aluminum, which as I said, was linked to Alzheimer's and to cancer, which is scary. There's a lot of things in this world that we can't control as far as what's exposed and put into our bodies, but I can control the dishware that I cook on. So that's a big part of it. And the reason that we did this was because, and I had this pan and I was saving it for years for this, and we finally threw it away. It was a pan that was just starting to flake off, and it had been anodized, and it was just falling apart, and there was like metal in our food, and it was disgusting. But like James doesn't like to waste stuff, and so we kept it for forever. And I just think that there was so much toxins being leached out of the food and into our bodies that it just scared me. So we're gonna talk about what we changed to, which is this guy. So this has replaced pretty much everything that we cook in. It is a stone bakeware, and whenever I buy anything, I try to support US businesses. So I buy them from here. I will link them in below to my Amazon account because one, US actually regulates everything more than other countries, and they also, for the most part, don't lie to you about stuff in the same way that maybe say China would or other places where they don't have as much information or they don't have the same kind of processing. So I can trust that this is actually a really high quality product. I also switched our meatloaf pan into a loaf dish, and again, we chose, I'm getting water on myself. We chose this as well. Now this is great. I've made keto bread in this, I've made meatloaf in this, and I've had much better luck with it cooking evenly and not burning or getting dried out like I did in a traditional like meatloaf tin. So the benefits of this are health-wise, but they're also better for cooking purposes. They more evenly distribute the heat. Let me look up what it was that I had found earlier. The benefits are numerous because it heats evenly and then it also retains its heat. And stoneware produces exceptionally crisp crust, moist interiors, and promotes even the baking and browning and roast to food to perfection. And that's from Pampered Chef, but you can go to lots of different forums that will say that. So from a health standard, it doesn't have any of the leaching and the chemicals and the metal that might get into your food. Also, it cooks evenly, it makes food moist, it roasts things really good. So what you get out of one dish, you can get a lot more benefits. So those are our two stone dishes, and we cook everything in there: casseroles, meatloafs, cookies, anything like that. Those two dishes will kind of get us through. Now we do have something where I kind of splurge, and we have a pizza thing. So if you've seen my keto dough recipe, I actually love using this, and I know it looks kind of bad, but like that's just because it's been scraped and cleaned and scratched, but it doesn't leach into your food even when that happens. And it still has like the seasoning that's very similar to like cast iron, and that stuff doesn't stick to it. And so when I cook on this with our pizzas, especially because they're mostly a cheese base and almond flour, and it gets kind of, it's an odd consistency, it doesn't stick to this, and it keeps that like super awesome, like professional pizza dough, that really fluffy that you like, as long as you don't burn it like I do on occasion because I walk away and get bored. But you know, this is awesome for that. So you actually heat this first and then cook on it. So it's been really, really fun. And then I could obviously, it doesn't have to be used just for pizza. It can be used for cookies or pastries and stuff. So on the keto diet or on a low carb diet, there's plenty of alternatives that you can use. And I have them on my channel if you're interested in that. So just having said all of that, you know, those are great options to cook with safely that I really enjoy. And they also, again, have that benefit of being, you know, really good to cook in. So that, which brings me to my next thing. If you knew aluminum was bad, something that you've seen in the industry in cooking and baking has been silicone. So I have a silicone dish here because I really wanted to try one. I was very curious. It's very malleable, and we don't use microwaves, which I can make another video about. We have a mini convection oven, and we cook it in it every day. So I wanted to try this in it. But this is something that's new that has come out, and it has been touted as like a great alternative, but it hasn't been around long enough for me to truly trust it, because I have a feeling like in a decade or 20 years, there will be something that will come out that will say, oh, this or that is connected, sorry, whoops, because I feel like that's what happens a lot with these kinds of products, like the BPAs that came out about plastic and other things like that. So that's just a personal opinion of mine. But other than that fact, it's the whole purpose of silicone is because things don't stick to it, but silicone doesn't cook as evenly. It doesn't, so you have to cook things longer, and when you're baking, that becomes a huge problem because you need chemical reactions to happen with inside the food, with inside, you know, the salt and the baking soda or whatever it is that you're using. Gotta check out Handle the Heat. She does an amazing job of explaining this. And if you don't get that, your baking items are not going to come out the way that you want them to. So I strongly recommend using the baking dishware, which is consistent, versus the silicone. I just haven't had the best of luck with that. If I'm just reheating a meal, it's kind of fine, but for the most part, I'd rather use either a ceramic or glass. So we do have glass cookware as well, that's frequently used in other options, in cooking things, so like pie plates and different things like that. So if you have the option between a metal, like aluminum or coated or something like that product versus a glass plate or a stoneware or ceramic, always go with the stoneware or the glassware because it just works so much better. Glass has a tendency where like the baking items may burn to the edges a little bit more, but still you're gonna get that crisp, wonderful flakiness. So all the benefits of it is that these are tried and true and tested items. So I do have a couple of these, but I use them to make cold things. So like I'll put my Chalk Zero syrup in this and some sunflower butter, and I'll make myself some Reese's peanut butter cups with little paper containers. And at one point I was using this a lot to make muffins for myself, like the ginormous ones to go to work. And it just kind of feels cheap. Do you know what I'm saying? Like when you go into a place and it already started to flake. I don't know, I probably paid like $6 to $10 for this. After a few uses, some of them like would be really cooked and fluffy, the other ones would be burnt. And at first I thought it was my oven, but it was definitely actually the pan. I don't know why it wasn't evenly dispersed, so I just don't really trust items like these. I have it still for those rare occasions where I may want a muffin, but for the most part I don't really use it anymore because it's just easier to use my other items. And I'm really curious about carafes, those little kind of white containers that they make like quiches and stuff in videos. I haven't bought any yet because I don't know, I haven't had the drive to, I guess. And it's been a lot of fun kind of experimenting with this over the years. And I just wanted to give you an idea of the benefits health-wise as well as convenience and ease of cooking. And I, again, will provide the ones that I recommend below. I love to support my country. I'm very proud of the economy that we have here and I want to promote that. And I also know that in other countries, there's some ethical things going on with child labor and payment and stuff like that. And we don't need to get into the politics of that, but I just feel like for my health, for the benefit of the environment, for the benefit of the other people working, that it is better to buy, for the most part in this scenario, American-made products. So those are just my thoughts and concerns on that. I know I kind of rambled and talked a lot, but I wanted to get as much info into a short video as I can. So it means so much to me that you guys were here today. Please subscribe below if you want to see more videos from me. And if you have any questions or if you have suggestions, I would love to hear that. And question of the day, what is your favorite thing to make in a loaf tin? So comment below with that because I need some ideas for what to do in there. And I just think it'd be fun to see what your suggestions are. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you guys next week. Bye.